Drew, you brought up something interesting yesterday when we were talking in our production meeting. You're just straight up said, is the group of five dead? Is it gone? And it made me think, why would Andrew ask such a question? Well, there's 9 jobs open already in the group of 5. And I thought, all right, well, maybe we do need to take a look at this. I mean, you think about these jobs, Drew. Mike New, Ball State, Biff Poggi at Charlotte, Mike Houston, East Carolina, your guy, Tom Herman, FAU, Brian Bohannon, Mike Bloom, Green, Will Hall, Stan Drayton, Don Brown. Drew, I mean, it's the axe has come early, unfortunately, in the group of 5. But tell me what you're just kind of thinking here overall in terms of maybe a little bit of a troubling trend of what you're seeing in the group of 5.
Yeah, I think this is the transfer portal. This is name, image, and likeness kind of rearing its nasty side, Cooper. I think it's getting so hard to win at the group of 5 level. And I think the transfer portal is a dangerous drug. And you look at each one of these programs, and obviously I'm pretty versed in Florida Atlantic, but I think of those 9 schools up there, we'll toss Kennesaw State out. They're moving up from FCS to FBS. So of those 8, I think 7 of them started a transfer quarterback here at the beginning of the 2024 season. And Cooper, the more I've kind of marinated on this, I think that is, going the transfer route with these quarterbacks, it can sink the program if you pick the wrong guy. And I went and I looked. All right, Cooper, how many quarterbacks do you think that have transferred down from a P4 to a G5 have gone on to get drafted in the past, 5 years? Can you name one?
I can't name one off the top of my. I would say it's probably 2 or 3 at most.
It's 2. One of them is your guy, Jake Haener, there with the New Orleans Saints. You also got Malik Willis. But why do I think it starts with the quarterback position? Okay, these group of 5 programs, they have very limited collective funding from the name, image, and likeness. And when you go out and you get these guys that, he was an Elite 11 finalist, or he's a former 4-star recruit, they demand a sizable chunk of your budget when it comes to what you have. And if it doesn't work out, it's like, okay, it's like missing on a day 1, day 2 draft pick. I mean, it's detrimental to your franchise. And the other thing is, you look at the 2 top G5 programs out there right now, Boise State, Tulane, both of them start quarterbacks that were signed from the high school ranks, and both of them have star running backs that came from the high school ranks. Obviously, one of them, Ashton Genty, in the Heisman Trophy conversation. So it's just kind of recalibrating how I think about group of 5 football, Cooper. And again, I'm very versed on what's gone on at Florida Atlantic. I think Tom Herman arrived without much of a plan, decided, hey, I'm going to go into the transfer portal. A lot of the transfers that FAU brought in here for year 2 didn't work out. I mean, you look at that offense, it looked like it was just a collection of players with no vision. And I think for whoever takes over at these group of 5 programs, you need to arrive from the jump and really invest in not only high school recruiting, but player development, because there's usually a reason why these guys are in the transfer portal. And remember, you only get this like 15-day window, right? When you can bring these guys in, you're bringing them in on official visits. You're not vetting the character. So I guess bottom line, I think it's getting really, really hard in this current landscape to win at the group of 5 level. Very hard.
Yeah. And to tack onto that, what's funny is, I'm overseeing the transfer portal rankings this year, as you know. But you start to dig in on some of these guys. You watch the tape initially and you're like, all right, the tape pops. You read in a little bit of the background history of the player and you're like, okay, they're highly touted. And then you start doing your homework, right? Whether it's injury history, whether it's character background, you start making calls. And you got to take a little bit of it with a grain of salt. But you start to fill in the blanks and you start to really kind of get all the puzzle pieces to the story. And then, like you said, Drew, a lot of it are highly touted players, and why aren't they on the field? And you see flashes. There's a player that jumped in recently, had over 100 snaps, and see flashes of what he can be. And you're saying, well, why isn't he playing consistently? And then you get the background on the player, and it's hard to say, all right, I'm gonna bet on that player going forward. And you're right. Like, you're at FAU, those are all the guys you're trying to take. How do you manage that locker room? How do you manage that timeline of guys that want to go in, make an impact early, and if it doesn't work out, then you got a chance of things going south quickly. So I think these group of 5 jobs are very difficult. And you brought up 2 kind of interesting examples. Tulane and Boise, at least where they are right now, it seemed like John Summerall is just taking the baton from Willie Fritz and continue to just build on what he's already established, which they've done a tremendous job in Louisiana and Texas in the South, finding the guys that have been really just kind of glossed over at the Power 4 level, but still have redeeming traits, building their team as a Power 4 team would through the high school ranks and supplementing via transfer portal. Guys like Mario Williams coming over as well. They brought in Ty Thompson from Oregon. They thought he was going to be the guy. When you have a guy like Darian Mitza, they signed out of California, who we had a low 3-star rating on. It makes everything easier, right? Malachi Nelson, Boise State, they brought him in to be the guys. Max Matson, 5'10 and a half, right? There's luxuries of being at group of 5 schools where people don't expect your quarterback position to look and feel a certain way. So maybe you should take advantage of that at other positions. I just find it kind of fascinating. I think it's a good point. I feel like it's too early for me to kind of wrap my head around like what's the correlation between the portal and 9 G5s getting axed in the middle of November, but there is something there. I'm not pushing back on it. I'm just kind of like, it's all happening very quickly, which is how I feel this thing goes. Everything happens fast and you really don't have time to react.
Yeah. Or calibrate or get a plan. And I'm not saying I have the answer here, Cooper. I just think, again, transfer portal at that level, very dangerous drug. As soon as you take it, you got to keep supplementing it and fill that way. And Tom Herman, Biff Poggi, both those guys got 22 games to win, right? And I don't know. If I was one of these group of 5 programs, you just talked about Glenn Schumann, right? And him being touched by Kirby Smart and working there and seeing that operation, I would be trying to find someone from one of these college football playoff contenders, a position coach, a Todd Hartley, a Cortez Hankton, a Todd Monken, or one of these guys, James Coley, like one of these guys that has been around it, seen how it's done, and try to implement that at the G5 level. And I'm not saying don't take transfers, but I don't think that can be the spine of your roster because it's very, very hard to manage.
Well, I agree. What I think is interesting about the portal is there's 2 degrees. And if you go in full in on the portal, you either win and you get more investment from the people that are floating the bill, or you lose and you're out. And it's kind of interesting with Colorado. I'm very fascinated to see what Colorado looks like post Shador, post Travis Hunter. Not taking anything away from them. They've done a phenomenal job at the skill spot, what they've done defensively as well. What does it look like after that, right? So a lot of case studies out there, I guess, in terms of the portal and what works and what doesn't work. And a lot of people have opinions on that.